Hello, my name is Mary Donaldson and I'm a member of the Research Data Management Service at the University of Glasgow. This is a recording of a library short presentation that was first given on the 12th of March 2015. There is no set definition for what comprises research data. Data could include any evidence on which research conclusions are based. Here I have included a list that was developed by the University of Bath. It includes results of experiments or simulations, statistics and measurements, models and software, fieldwork observations, survey results, interview recordings and/or transcripts, images, video, and textual source materials and annotations. It must be stressed that this list is not exhaustive. If you collect or create something in the process of doing research, then there's a good likelihood that it could be classified as research data. Management of research data involves everything that happens to data throughout the research data lifecycle. It is to do with how we create, organise, keep, find and share data, and is considered to be an integral part of the research process. On this slide, I've included a very simplified schematic to illustrate the data lifecycle. More complex versions that include all the associated processes are available from the Digital Curation Centre's web pages. I'd like to show briefly just a couple of ways in which the data lifecycle relates to research in the real world. So for example, researcher 1 might conceive an idea and plan out a proposal to investigate it, entering the data lifecycle at the planning phase. He collects his data, cleans and evaluates it, and then describes it when it's written up in a paper that's submitted to a journal and published. He then deposits the data set that underpins the paper in a repository for long-term preservation. Researcher 2 then reads that paper and realises that the data set might also assist with a research question that she's addressing. So she enters at the discovery phase. She integrates these ideas and the data that she's recovered from the repository into her own work, reanalyses it, and then this forms the basis for a new research proposal. So we're back to the planning phase. In this way, researchers can enter the data life cycle at any point. I'd now like to examine some of the drivers that exist for data sharing. As I mentioned on the previous slide, funding councils now have data sharing policies, and several councils have mandated these policies. Data sharing promotes scientific integrity by enabling scrutiny of the data itself alongside the researcher's analysis and interpretation of the data as published in the associated paper. Data sharing also promotes new collaborations between researchers who might otherwise never have met. Indeed, some research councils and repositories recommend that if a researcher intends to reuse a dataset within 2 years of the initial deposit, the original author should be offered the opportunity of collaboration rather than just attribution. Research for which the underlying data is shared tends to have greater visibility and impact. A recent study indicated that papers where the data is publicly available gather between 9 and 30% more citations than equivalent papers that do not provide access to the datasets. This next driver is really the overarching principle for all of this. The outputs of publicly funded research are a public good and should be available for public reuse. This is now becoming enshrined in funder data policies. This is also aligned with the University of Glasgow's 2020 vision, and it is expected that datasets may be included as outputs as part of the next REF exercise. The quotation on this next slide is taken from the RC UK Funders Harmonized Data Policy. Publicly funded research data are a public good, produced in the public interest, which should be made openly available with as few restrictions as possible in a timely and responsible manner that does not harm intellectual property. In practice, this means that funders want research to capitalise on their work and have the opportunity to publish, patent or otherwise commercialise their work. But once they've done so, unless there are good legal, ethical or commercial reasons for not doing so, they want the data to be made publicly available. The EPSRC and the ESRC have mandated these data policies already, and other funders have indicated that they will follow suit. This is not something that's happening in the UK without reference to the rest of the world. In the USA, civilian federally funded agencies must facilitate the open exchange of research and data. The NIH and the NSF also require research to be made openly available. Similar ideas are now being piloted by the European Commission. As an example, here is a breakdown of what a researcher might need to do to be compliant with the EPSRC's data expectations. They should create a data management plan for their work. When they complete a project or data set, the data should be deposited in a data repository. When they publish their research, the underlying data should be made available, if appropriate, and a data citation should be included in the paper indicating how and on what terms the data can be accessed. The data should be securely preserved for at least 10 years post-project. If it has been deposited in a reputable repository, this should already have been taken care of. Finally, appropriate metadata should be created that allows others to find, cite, and understand the dataset. The library will be able to create a lot of this metadata for the researchers, but researchers need to create contextual metadata that allows others to understand the dataset. This could take the form of a README file and is something that is best created as the data is collected, rather than at the time of deposit. Having given you a rundown of the data management landscape and the expectations of funders, I'd now like to outline what support is available for data management at the University of Glasgow. Since January 2015, there has been a research data management service based in the University Library. We maintain a useful set of web pages, and this is a screenshot from the top level of our web pages here, and we can be contacted at the email address on the bottom of the previous page. The support we offer is broadly fourfold. We can help with data management planning, we can read over data management plans and offer comments, we can offer standard text for certain sections of DMPs, and we can offer advice on costing research data management into grant proposals. We also run Enlighten Research Data, the University of Glasgow's institutional data repository. Sitting on top of our repository is the data registry, which is an electronic catalogue of all the research datasets produced at Glasgow. This is also where we can mint digital object identifiers for datasets and is publicly searchable. If your data resides in a subject repository elsewhere, it is also possible to get an entry for it in the registry. Finally, we can offer advice and training on all aspects of research data management. Just ask us or check with the university's staff development course options and graduate school training brochures for training and workshops. This next slide shows a screenshot from our recommended tool for writing data management plans. DMP Online is a web-based application developed for UK higher education by the JISC-funded Digital Curation Centre. It is preloaded with data management plan templates for all the major funders and has also been customised with guidance from the University of Glasgow to assist researchers when writing their data management plans. I've already mentioned that at Glasgow we have Enlighten Research Data, which is our institutional data repository. This is currently backed by secure commercial data storage, which holds 2 copies of the data in mirrored data centres at 2 different locations, and a 3rd copy in escrow. Archivum, which is the company that we currently use, guarantee that data stored with them is 100% recoverable for 25 years. In addition to the university's repository, there are many other subject-specific, funder and generic repositories available. If these are a more natural home for your data, then that's where your data should go. Just let us know where you've put it so that we can make a record in the registry. Finally, here's a screenshot of one of the landing pages in our registry. This is a dataset which came to us from the School of Engineering. You can see the title of the dataset and its creators listed. There is also a link to the original publication, a datasite DOI for the dataset, and the files and documentation that comprise the dataset, and for each of these, licensing information for the file. I hope this presentation has given you an overview of the research data management landscape and the support that's available at Glasgow. Most importantly, if you have a question or if you need help, just ask us. We're contactable at the email address shown on this slide. Thank you.